Hello, my beautiful friends. I am so happy to be exploring a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have had to explore a lot throughout my life, and I've had different relationships to it throughout my entire adult life, especially. And that is moments, days, and seasons of feeling worn out. So, if you are somebody who is just feeling a little uninspired, a little numbed out, a little like you just want to curl into the couch and not do much, maybe you're feeling a little hollowed out, or you just aren't having a lot of new ideas, this is going to be a chat for you, because what I really want to do here today is reframe this in a way that gives you a lot more peace and permission to have seasons and little cycles of this throughout your life, and not to spend so much of our sacred energy and our just life force judging and shaming ourselves, because most of us have been taught to judge and shame those times in life when we aren't having a lot of fresh inspiration, when we aren't in that kind of go-getter mood. And I just want to say, before we get into this topic, dive deep into it and explore it today, if you're somebody who is going through a time where this is feeling really, really overwhelming, I highly recommend that you don't have to do this work alone. Find that community, reach out for that support. You're totally allowed to have this. And I just want to say that before we get deeper into the topic. So yes, today we are going to explore seasons of feeling worn out. Now, this doesn't just include like burnout. If you've just been through a season where you've overworked and you've just kind of fried your system, it does include that. But I think worn out also includes times where it can kind of sneak up on us over the course of a little bit of time. It can kind of come out of the blue, that suddenly, if you are a creative person, you don't really know why, but you're not having a lot of new ideas. It can come when we're going through seasons of transition or healing. So this feeling of kind of being worn out or not having a lot of inspired movement through your system, or a lot of new ideas, or even a desire for new ideas and movement to come through. I want to kind of normalize this a little bit, contextualize it, and explore it so that we can reframe it and work with it more deeply. And I was really inspired by the work of a sociologist by the name of Devin Price. They have a beautiful book. It came out pretty recently, in the last year or two, called Laziness Does Not Exist. If you want to deep dive on this topic, highly recommend their work. But they really explored this idea of the laziness lie. And the laziness lie being that just even talking about the concept of laziness in culture over the last several hundred years as being something that is amoral, that is inherently flawed, that's this bad thing that you're doing. And a lot of us have been fed this, so that if we are not in constant desiring, creation, consumption mode, then we must be doing something wrong. And this really kicked off for me as I was reading their work. It really kicked off for me an entire exploration about seasons of feeling worn out and empty, the times when the world just feels like too much, and like all we want is the simplicity of sitting still with no projects, no deadlines, no goals, no even curiosity. This is such a sacred time, and it's one that's really, really important, but we have been taught to judge it for so long, our entire lives pretty much, that a lot of us don't get the benefits and the love and the healing that this time represents. I also want to say, with the judgment of this, there's often normally a reason why we are going through a phase where we aren't having a lot of new ideas, where we are feeling worn out. And I think a lot of times we will kind of convince ourselves or talk ourselves out of those reasons. For example, I just went through a big move a couple of months ago to Sweden, and here I am now. And all of the adjusting and the doing a whole bunch of new things and just kind of adjusting my life completely takes a lot of energy for me. It takes a lot of energy for anybody. So I've been having moments of big feeling worn out and kind of like not newly, freshly creative very often, because I'm doing a lot. My system's actually doing a lot right now. I'm navigating a new language. I'm learning new little spots and nooks in my new city that work for me. I'm remapping my entire world. I'm starting a new life cycle. So for me, my days of when I'm feeling worn out and I just want to sit on the couch and I don't really want to do much, even watch anything or read anything, makes perfect sense. My brain is literally creating new neural pathways. My body's getting used to new scenarios and situations. So there's a really clear, obvious reason why I'm feeling worn out. I feel like not initiating a whole bunch of new projects and heading up a whole bunch of different things. And a lot of us are going to have very real reasons and real seasons of why we need to not be constantly pumping out new ideas and new beginnings and wanting, and pushing. You may be going through a phase of healing something, both physically, emotionally, all of it. You may be going through a season of being in an unfamiliar landscape like me. You may be going through a stressful scenario that is using up a lot of your energy. Normally these seasons come because we need to do some incorporation and we need to rest. So I also just want to legitimize these seasons. They aren't here as some inconvenience or something that we are doing wrong or something that we need to fix. It is within itself doing something for us. And I think it's so refreshing to just be reminded of that, because I know that when I'm in a phase of being worn out, which I'm actually kind of in the midst of one right now, to be honest, when I hear that nourishment from my partner or my good friends or anybody else that I'm reading or listening to, it helps me so much. So I just want to give that back to any of you out there who are feeling like you should be pushing harder or you should be wanting to push harder, that there is nothing wrong with these seasons, whether it's 2 days or it's many, many months. I want you to just take that pressure off of yourselves to fix yourselves. Now, I just want to talk about some of the ways that we do judge this and some of the ways to kind of work with ourselves, get curious about our own season of wear out, and get curious about how we kind of construct our judgments around this to help all of us relax into this a little bit more. So there's going to be like 4 main anchor points in this to chat. The first one is conceptions of time and timelines. A lot of us have timelines in our mind of when we want to get a project done, when we want to have accomplished something, when we need to have gotten to a certain point, right? We create these for ourselves to give ourselves a little bit of structure. They're often handed to us by the people we're working with or by our culture. A lot of times, timelines that we have in our minds about who the person we need to become are something that started to build when we were small children and we were getting socialized and learning about how to be in this world. There's a lot of these and they are quite arbitrary timelines that we get really deep in our core beliefs about ourselves and our value in this world. And I would recommend getting really curious about the timelines you have for yourself. I know that a lot of us have very practical things that need to get done. You know, you have to get that piece of paper turned in at a certain time, or, you know, you got to follow up with X, Y, and Z amount of practical things. And I know that can be really challenging in times when really you just want to sit still and rest, and you still have to follow some of these linear timelines to be a part of this world. I get that. But I guess what I'm getting at is the deeper timelines that have to do with the person we need to blossom into, the transformation we need to have completed by next month. And we're not feeling inspired. We're not feeling like creating the thing. And we can feel, oh, I'm not going to get that done next month. And how much we judge ourselves for these timelines that we've put on ourselves and then feel that we can't live up to. So getting curious about those timelines, maybe releasing some pressure on those timelines for yourself. Asking some curious questions about them can really help us to release this kind of dread monster, this time dread monster that can sit on our shoulders when we're in a season of low energy and low inspiration and a little bit of emptiness. I think honestly, the pressure of those kind of phantom timelines can actually keep us immobilized and stuck in these seasons of low energy in a way that doesn't feel as good. So it's important that we kind of look those phantom timelines in the eyes, ask them some curious questions so that they can release a little bit. So that's the first one. The second one, and this is one of my favorite ones. I think it's really important as we keep moving through life and we continue to age and explore, which is dissolving the myth of the good old days of who you were. So the other thing, because a lot of the torture we put ourselves through in these seasons of low energy have to do with our conceptions of time. And a lot of us are going to have an ideal younger self, a self from the past that had energy, that was doing a project well, that was on task, that was just living it up, that we have lost. I think a lot of people are feeling this right now post-pandemic, that there was a person before that who was doing something. And everybody's going to be a little different on this one. But we want to just dissolve the mirage that this person from the past is what we need to get back to. If we really look at that full person and we really think about ourselves in that moment, there were a lot of questions and unknowns, insecurities, and worries that were with that version of ourselves as well. They had their own set of questions, their own set of worries and insecurities. And if we really remember who that person was, while they may have had high energy or been able to socially perform at a very adept level where their mirror neurons were doing their thing, they were able to attune to a whole bunch of different people, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person was feeling their best all the time, right? And it's not to really denigrate our past selves. It's more to realize that there is no better and worse here, and we don't need to put things in these black or white judgment categories. We don't need to try and make ourselves a past version of ourselves that apparently or in our own minds had more energy. We're fine just the way we are. And that actually leads me into the next anchor point of getting curious about this season of low energy and working with it rather than against it, which is that we don't need to be different than what we are right here in this moment right now. So if you are sitting here hanging out with me and you are feeling really tired, or you're just lacking the interest in things that maybe you had at one time, I just want you to, that's okay. It's okay to be there. You are allowed to not have interest in things at this moment. It doesn't mean that you're failing life. It doesn't mean you will never have sparks of interest again, or that you'll never have other seasons of life. I just want to say that as well. While this current moment may feel like, well, what if it goes on forever? What if this is just who I am now? The more we actually relax into just accepting ourselves as we are in this moment, the more able we are to be present with ourselves. Stop trying to sliver ourselves up into a whole of different pieces and force ourselves into shapes that we're not. The more likely we are to start moving in rhythm with ourselves and to slowly ease out of these seasons of low energy. But beyond that, you don't need to be in such a rush to change the way you are right in this moment. It's okay to be here. And I think it goes back to that work that I was talking about, the Devin Price book, Laziness Does Not Exist, because it's like this fear that if we're not policing ourselves, if we're not coming up with those new ideas and pushing, that we're doing something immoral, that we're doing something that is just really irresponsible and selfish and horrible. And that isn't innately true at all. So I just want you to remember that in this moment, and something I can use a reminder of all the time. The final anchor point for me that I think helps in exploring and reframing is not needing to have the future mapped out for yourself moving forward. Not only are we going to just accept, like, I have low energy right now, I'm not really interested in much, And I don't have a lot of big desires at the moment, which, by the way, I should do another one about desire and desire as a mechanism of capitalism, because that's a whole other topic. But part of this worry and this fear is that if we just accept ourselves in the present moment, we're never going to be responsible for our future or the people around us. We're going to do irresponsible, selfish, mean-spirited things because we are being lazy. And that if we aren't policing ourselves, worrying about the future and getting everything laid out for the next 5 or 10 years, that we are doing something wrong, that we are doing something irresponsible. I know many of you are going to have responsibilities. You're going to have kids or school or work or, things that have these kind of linear, real world deadlines that affect other people. I totally get that, right? And I know that we can't just, a lot of us, it's going to be very hard to just be like, oh, well, I am now a space blob and I'm just going to stop caring for the people around me. I know most of us aren't going to do that. And I guess that's not even the requirement either. I think it's more just like, if you are sitting here in a moment of low inspiration, just know that like, you don't need to worry about 5 years from now at this moment. You don't need to have every single career shift, what your kids are going to do in 10 years, what you're going to do, who are you going to be in even 6 months. Just a reminder to like take that weight off of your shoulders. This season of feeling worn out or uninspired isn't going to destroy you 2 years down the road. So I think a lot of us will also get worried that we're going to stay in this moment forever and that we're going to derail something down the line. And I want to take that pressure off of ourselves. For me, it's like when I'm in one of these seasons, I'm very much about making a list of the things that I really have to get done. I know I need to go to that appointment to get that new ID, or that I need to answer those emails. I will get it down to what really, really matters. I'll make sure to get that done. And then I will make sure that I also have some time to just let myself feel this season of feeling worn out and empty and not putting pressure on myself. So if you can do that for yourself, it can really help you to utilize this time. As I want to get back around to what is this time, how to frame it. For me, this is a time of incubation. This is a time of allowing the soil of our souls to rest. In a lot of the old texts, a lot of the old mystic text from different cultures around the world, there was a lot of symbolism that had to do with the earth and having seasons where you left the earth alone. You let it rest, you let the soil rebuild. And for me, this is exactly that. These seasons are innate, they're natural. For me, they should be coming in regularly. We're all going to have our own oscillations of that. We're all going to have our own ways that it shows up, frequency, intensity, whatever. But it is a natural, innate part of being a human, an organic being that feels things, that has to repair things, that has physical matter to do, as well as a way for us to reconnect to our souls. We have only lived in a truly mechanized world for the last couple hundred years. And, we are not machines. We never, ever were. And the fact that that laziness lie that I keep referring to with Devin Price's work exists is a reflection of a mechanized society that's very focused on like a constant state of action. It makes me think about the hustle culture that was really popular about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that was so like cool, and it was on all the social media. It's these things that they're just constructions, right? And I know we've all thought this isn't new information that I'm sharing, but it's kind of my own take on it, I would say. I just wanted to close out today though as well, because there's going to be some of you out there who have you've been in a season of wear out for a little bit, and you're starting to feel a little itchy again. You're starting to kind of feel like you're coming back out from under the earth, the crust of the earth, sprouting like a flower. And you may feel a little intimidated to put your foot back in to creating. So I have just a few things. If you're naturally starting to feel that little tingle, you're wanting to kind of gently ease yourself back into movement into the world. And this is something you should do when it feels right for you. First thing, start slow. Start with small practices. If you've been in an energy of low or a low season of energy and you haven't felt like painting or writing for a little while, start with 100 words. Start with a tiny sketch. Start with some color swatches that inspire you, right? And just keep those kind of practices in your day-to-day routine. Also, we don't need to go from 0 to 60 in a week. When we are gently resurfacing from a season of low energy, we don't need to be trying to conquer the world. One of the gifts of these low energy seasons, these low inspired seasons, these worn out seasons, is that it gives you the gift of remembering that you're worthy without needing to grasp so hard. So we want to take the gifts that we've learned from this time into the creations, into the connections that we do start to make when we slowly re-enter the world. So we don't need to re-plug back into that whole conquering mindset that is very much about scattering to the top, right? So also just let that go when you're getting back into it. Do it because it gives you joy. And if it doesn't, question it. This is the final one, and this one is so important, and one that even if it's not a season of low energy, even if you aren't worn out this season, is one that I love to re-examine like monthly, which is defining your own metrics of safety and security for you. Safety, security, and success. It doesn't need to be the set kind of metrics that we're kind of handed at school and in our culture. Define your own metrics of security and safety and success for you. Maybe it's just doing that 100 words a day. Maybe it's, having a little time to create some structure and then making sure you have time to go sit out in nature. There are so many ways to define what security and success means to you. And this is also the true gift of these seasons of low energy. It's a chance for us all to get back in touch with what really, really matters, and what really, really connects to us. And a lot of times I think seasons of feeling a bit disconnected, low energy, worn out, it's us kind of taking a step back, because a lot of the things that we're handed, told that this is what's going to fill us and make us happy and give us a full, dazzling life, are things that don't do that for us, because they're not our own metrics of what feels good to us. So it's also about exploring what truly gives us joy. And sometimes this can challenge things that we've been working on for a long time, which can feel very overwhelming, but is also a wonderful place to really get in touch with what we want to bring to our lives. And with that in mind, there's no pressure to have a purpose, to know exactly what you need to do and have like a mission on earth. I want to take that all off the table, especially if you are in the midst of a season of feeling worn out. We don't need any of that. And my dream of the world is always one where any of us who need to rest can. That's something that I just think about all the time. And I wish that for each and every one of you, that you get the resources and the support you need so that you can get the rest you need, and you can take the time to heal and feel and explore who you are. But I hope that this was just a soothing little chat, a reminder that it's okay. It's more than okay to be where you are. It's actually really natural, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's something that there's a reason that you're going through this. Whether it's because you're healing, because you're dealing with stressors, or because you just need some recharge time. Whatever it is, I am right there with you. I would love to see you on my Patreon. We explore topics like this every single week. You can also find me on my Instagram. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me, I would love it if you would subscribe and like and leave me a comment about your own exploration of this topic, because I know I am far from the only one who has explored this time and these kind of seasons of life. So I'd love to hear from you in any of those ways. It helps me to keep doing what I'm doing. I will leave all the info in the description box if you want to know how to connect with me. And I will see you very soon for our next Heart to Heart.